Man, YouTube. Every Sunday there is something different with YouTube. Sorry about that, guys. We had a little bit of an issue with YouTube, but we're back. So we're gonna give you a bit of time for you guys to come back to us. But yeah, just YouTube every day. Just find a different way to kind of
challenge us.
Yeah, or let's say just challenge us.
Yes.
Anyway. So what was I saying? Oh, yes. I hope that you're having a wonderful day and you are feeling super fancy because today is International Caviar Day. So maybe you can be treating yourself to this treat, which I personally, on my own opinion, right? I tried it once. I don't find that good whatsoever. But
can you even find caviar in New Zealand supermarkets?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't think you can either.
Yeah. Anyway, we're not that fancy.
Yeah.
Anyway. Wear your top hat, your monocle, and eat some caviar. It's International Caviar Day, but it's also Plastic-Free July. So if you have the opportunity this week to use one less piece of plastic, that'll be wonderful. So next time you go grocery shopping, and you have to choose between a plastic jar and a glass jar, try to pick the glass jar just one time this week, just because it's Plastic-Free July. It is also Matariki here in New Zealand, which is kind of the Maori New Year, but we'll go more in depth into that a little bit later. And but most importantly, we are here to answer all your questions about traveling in New Zealand, because we kind of are the experts of traveling in New Zealand. But why are we the experts, Laura?
Well, this is Robin and I'm Laura, and we're the team behind NZPocketGuide.com, which is New Zealand's largest travel guide because it literally has thousands and thousands of articles to help you plan your trip to New Zealand. And it covers all sorts of different types of travel, whether you're looking for a luxury getaway, maybe a family road trip around the islands, renting a car, or if you're here for a full year on a working holiday, we cover all that sort of stuff on NZPocketGuide.com. So make sure to go check that out. But if you're not really into reading so much, because there is literally thousands of articles there, we have this live Q&A session on YouTube every single Sunday at 8 a.m. New Zealand time. So you guys can come along and ask your New Zealand travel questions directly to us.
Yeah, that's happening in the live chat. Just put your questions in the live chat and we're here by you.
Absolutely. So just so you know, for times around the world, like I say, it's 8 a.m. New Zealand time on a Sunday morning. On a Saturday, that is around 9 or 10 p.m. In Europe, around the UK and France. In the US, that is on a Saturday afternoon at 4 p.m. EST, 1 p.m. PST. And in India, that's bright and early on a Sunday morning at 1:30 a.m. And in Australia, that's also pretty early at 6 a.m. on a Sunday morning. So what we do throughout the week is we take the questions that you guys have asked in the comments section of any of our YouTube videos, and we also compile those together so we can answer those questions during this live Q&A session as well. So if you do miss the live Q&A session, make sure to put your questions in the comments of any of our YouTube videos. But of course, the best place to come and get your questions answered is right here on the live chat.
Anthony Comstock says Morena from California in USA. So if you guys don't know, Morena means good morning in Maori, which is the local indigenous population here in New Zealand, which is quite cool. All right, a couple of things to say. First up, thank you to all of you guys that have voted in the little survey that I placed last week. When we are cutting some videos and we're putting them live, we're putting them on the channel to kind of help you plan your trip. We usually ask you guys, we usually don't put much photos and everything. It's just us talking to you because we find that usually a bit less distracting to most of the content. But I did some photo to it. Just to make you picture a little bit more what we're talking about. And I ask you guys to vote if you did like the photos or not, if I should keep doing that. And 85% of you guys say, yes, you want to see more photos. So we'll put some more photos onto our videos from now on. So yeah, thank you very much for voting. I think there was about 30 of you guys that voted. So yeah, that's really awesome. Sander DeVries say, hey guys, how are you? Really awesome. Good. Thank you very much, man. It is really cold at the moment in New Zealand because it's winter. So when it is winter in New Zealand, which is the southern hemisphere, it is usually summer in the northern hemisphere and vice versa. So when you guys are like really warm, we're usually really cold. And since we live by a mountain, we are really, really, really cold.
Yeah.
But it's all good. That just means we have snow. We have the ski field open. It's just fantastic.
Yeah.
Kiwi Lauren says, love your videos. Have you successfully managed to travel with one single backpack? I want to have a day pack and a big backpack, grocery bags, etc. Not too convenient, haha. Any packing tips?
Well,
hello, Lauren. How are you doing?
Yeah, I was going to say, actually, Robin has traveled with just a single day pack, haven't you?
Yeah, so actually, so as you can hear, Lauren, from my accent, I'm not originally from New Zealand. I arrived in New Zealand about 10 years ago from France. And when I was traveling around the world before coming to New Zealand, I actually arrived in New Zealand with only a carry-on. I did not have like a full backpack and everything like that. So it really depends on kind of what is your style. A lot of people like to overpack. A lot of people don't. Nowadays, we usually have a lot of cameras and everything. So not including that, usually Laura and I, when we travel, we usually travel with one. Again, there is a bag full of cameras, but that doesn't count for you, right? But we usually travel with one bag for like one full size bag for one person, and then the other person usually only has a day pack. So then when we can travel around, we can leave our backpack, accommodation, should be an RV, a motel, a hotel, a hostel, any of that, depending on where we stayed at that time. So we usually have one pack for two, and then the day pack, and so we leave the big pack in the accommodation, and then we take the day pack and all the hike that we're doing and everything. Now, if you want some tips for packing, I'm usually in charge of packing everything. So I love packing cubes. I don't know if you ever looked into packing cubes, but they are absolutely fantastic. You basically have, it's kind of made of mesh kind of fabric, and you have a zipper so you can put everything in, and you have everything really compartmentalized.
Yeah.
That's a hard word.
So they're separated into different sort of compartments within your backpack or your suitcase, depends what you want to take. But obviously you want to just one single backpack.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So inside all those packing cubes, I usually roll everything. So the rolling technique allows you to fit so much more, and I find that it makes less creases onto it. So you can find some advice and some tips on that on the website. Actually, we have a whole article on that with all our packing tips. So it's on NZPocketGuide.com. But yeah, so if you roll and use the packing cubes, honestly, as just one person traveling, there is no way you're gonna need extra bags. I always see like ton of people like carrying like, as you said, the grocery shopping bag, and then the day pack, day pack in the front, and then the backpack in the bag, and oh my God, I don't know. I never had this problem. Even when we travel with all our cameras and everything, I never had this problem. We usually just have an extra like hard case, like Willy suitcase, like with the cameras in so they don't get broken. But I never really have anything else. Yeah. Another tip that I can give you is to keep everything fresh. Those dryer sheets that you can get, that you put in the dryer, when you dry your clothes and it's supposed to smell good. If you put a couple of dryer sheet in your backpack, it keeps everything kind of fresh and smelling fresh, and it avoids the whole mustiness in it. And so we do that every single time. I think I have one in about half the cubes that we have in the backpack, and that kind of like gets the whole thing
keeps
fresh.
Things fresh. Yeah.
Any other tip that you can come up with?
Yeah. Well, we also would advise to have a look on nzpocketguide.com, because we also have a list of things not to pack. Well, we're talking specifically about New Zealand. There's a few things that some people might pack because they've needed it for elsewhere when they've traveled to other countries, but there's some things that you don't need to pack for New Zealand. We're thinking about things like hair dryers. We also give tips on like the small travel towels that you can get, that sort of thing, avoiding bringing things like umbrellas, that sort of thing. So if you take a look at that article, I think it's called something like 10 things to definitely not pack for New Zealand. There's just a few things to help you save on space there. But like Robin says, we also have loads of other articles about packing for New Zealand on nzpocketguide.com, so there'll be lots of advice on there.
Kshitij is on board and he says, hi, good morning. Good morning, Kshitij, how are you? Kiwi Lorenz says, I'd also love to hear you try to pronounce the name of the longest named place in New Zealand.
Well, it's the longest named place in the world.
Yeah, so it's really, really long.
Book of Records.
So I'm, you know what? I think it's funny, so I'm going to try to do it. But again, I obviously have no notion of the Maori language or the, and I'm obviously a foreign guy from France trying to pronounce that word. So anyone that is watching us, like Extreme Talota, Morena, by the way, how are you doing? Don't be too offended. I'm going to get trying. Tomata whakatangi hanga ko awa oa tamatia turi puka ka piki monga hogro nuku poka whenua kita natahu. So here you go.
Yeah.
And She also say, I'm Canadian, but I learned how to say it when I was living in New Zealand.
Nice.
Well, I'm pretty sure you can pronounce it better than me reading it for like I've read it before, but usually I just read like tomato and I'm like, okay, I know which one it is. I'm just going to stop reading right here.
So if anybody wants to actually go and visit that town, it's in the Hawke's Bay region of New Zealand in the North Island.
Near which big town?
Nearest sort of the big town that people might have heard of is Napier. So that's in that area of New Zealand.
So extreme Talota says, Morena, how are we? We're doing pretty good, pretty warm actually. We have cranked up the heat pump right here to try to warm up. How are you doing? And Kiwi Lauren says, that was actually pretty good. Haha, cheers. You're very welcome. So you're Canadian, but your nickname is Kiwi Lauren. I like that. Are you coming back to New Zealand soon to travel? All right, so while you guys are getting warmed up with some more questions, we're going to be talking about the big talk of the moment here in New Zealand. It is Matariki. So Matariki is basically the equivalent of the Maori New Year. And so we're going to tell you everything there is to know about it right now. All right, so Matariki, first let's get started. Before the French tried to colonize New Zealand, the English arrived a few weeks before and then kicked the French out, and then the French colonized New Zealand. And then the English colonized New Zealand. But before that, there was a population called the Maoris that were living in New Zealand. And there's still a thriving culture here in New Zealand. And it's an amazing and huge part of the New Zealand experience when you come to travel. And with any cultures comes some kind of events. And one of the biggest Maori events that there can be in every single year is Matariki. It's the equivalent of the New Year. And there is a lot of celebration and there's a lot of things happening. And because right now, if you're watching this video within the next few hours, it is Matariki. But if you're watching this video next July, it will be Matariki as well. And Laura is going to tell you everything there is to know about it.
All right. So like Robin says, Matariki is like the Maori New Year in New Zealand. But it isn't just for one day, because the time that it's actually observed is when a star constellation in Maori known as Matariki, but in English, people know it as the Pleiades constellation. And so this is usually when it's at its brightest in the sky, which typically is a couple of weeks during winter in New Zealand. Over the years, it's been towards the end of May, it's been in June, and this year it's in July. So it kind of changes around. It really just depends on what the stars are doing. So that's the first thing to know. It changes every year, but it's sort of celebrated. The very day of the celebration really depends on what sort of what tribe is celebrating, because there are different tribes around New Zealand known as iwi, and some of them may celebrate it at the beginning of when they can see the constellation in the sky, and some of them might celebrate it after the first full moon after the constellation has been in the sky. So it really depends on what area in New Zealand you are for when the celebrations are going on. Okay, but so the sort of main reason people are celebrating Matariki is to celebrate, remember those that have passed in the last year, but it's more seen in like a positive way, sort of celebrating the cycle of life and death. So that's sort of like the main focus of Matariki. And traditionally, it was also at this time of the year when sort of all the seafood was gathered and all the crops have been harvested. So usually it's a big feast that is used.
It's a plentiful time.
Yes, it's a plentiful time. And usually there's a lot of food. And in the Maori language, food is known as kai. So everyone comes around for kai and has a big feast. That's usually the traditional way of celebrating the Maori New Year. So just so you know sort of the dates for this year for Matariki, the constellation started on the 13th of July and it goes on to about the 20th of July.
That's for 2020.
That's for 2020. But next year it changes. Like I say, it's going to start predicted around the 2nd of July and end around the 10th of July. And then the year after that, in 2022, it's predicted slated to start at the 21st of June to the 29th of June. So as you can see, the times change all the time, but it's usually best to just check, sort of like on the year that you're hoping to see some celebrations and just see what the updated dates are for Matariki.
So on NZ Pocket Guide, we have an article that we update regularly. So you will be able to find the next 2-3 years of dates on there. We update it about every year to just make sure that you have the latest dates.
Yeah. So, like I say, the way that New Zealanders and the Maori celebrate Matariki, within communities, it might be with a really big feast, a traditional way of cooking food for the Maori is something known as hangi, which is food cooked in an underground oven. Usually it takes all day to prepare, all day to cook, but the result is absolutely amazing. Robin and I have tried a few hangi around New Zealand, and it is a really, really good feast. And it's usually shared with loads of different people. So if you ever get the chance to have a hangi while you're in New Zealand, make sure that you try and definitely check it out. But yeah, like most sort of traditions or even places around New Zealand, there's usually a legend attached to the thing. So Matariki has its own legend. And again, the legends might be different for the different iwi or tribes around New Zealand. But a common one is that the constellation of Matariki, which has sort of 7 prominent stars, are actually the 7 eyes of one of their gods. So there's quite a cool legend behind that as well. And the sort of places that you can actually learn more about the sort of Maori traditions behind Matariki are at some of the museums around New Zealand during Matariki. So for instance, Te Papa Museum, which is the National Museum of New Zealand. It's in Wellington. It's free to go to. They usually, every single year they have even a Matariki festival there, so you can learn more about Matariki. You can learn about the legends. They usually do sort of like cinema showings there to like some videos and stuff, so you can learn more about it. They have guest speakers as well, so you can really get into it and learn a ton about the Maori language during this time. But even the regional museums, for instance, when we've traveled around New Zealand during New Zealand's biggest gap year, where we did 365 days of 365 activities. We went to the Waikato Museum in Hamilton around the Matariki time, and we actually got to see a whole exhibition about Matariki. And so that sort of thing is definitely the museums during Matariki is a good place to go and learn more about it. But otherwise, there's usually sort of community events that happen around the country. And just one last thing to sort of note about Matariki is that you can actually see it during the celebrations of Matariki.
That's the star, that is, right?
Yes. You can actually see the star constellations in the sky. If you know where to look, and again, at the Te Papa Museum, they can tell you where to look. They can sort of show you all that sort of stuff. But usually it's best to look in the northeast horizon just before sunrise, and you should be able to see it sort of near Orion's belt. If you know where Orion's belt is, then you will be able to.
There are actually some really good apps on your phone that you can kind of point out to the stars. They will kind of help you kind of see that. Just make sure that you get the Southern Hemisphere app and not like the Northern Hemisphere, because obviously the stars are different wherever you are on the planet. But yeah, there's some really good apps for that.
Yeah. So just one quick thing to say is that also you can actually see Matariki in the summer, but it's just a little bit fainter, and you can usually see it at the opposite sort of time, like at sunset. You can actually see Matariki in summer, if anyone wants to know that little bit of detail. That's about it.
All right, so first up, if you did find this video useful and you learned a few things, a great way to reward us for all our hard work is to hit the like button. It's a free way to tell YouTube that what we do is kind of useful and it should show it to other people. If you want to dive a bit deeper into Matariki, you can head to nzpocketguide.com, in which we have multiple articles about the Maori cultures and specifically about Matariki, so you know what kind of celebration to attend to, and you know, get a bit more detail than what we just told you right here. And if you want to see more videos about traveling in New Zealand, you can subscribe too. That's awesome. Thank you for watching. We'll go back to the live chat. All right, so you guys have been quite busy talking to us. Again, as usual, we'll read every comment, so don't worry, we'll get to you. Extreme Talota says he's been pretty busy. Kiwi Lauren says she calls herself a Kiwi-Nadian. Kiwi-Nadian, because she did her music education internship in Perth in 2007. Oh wow,
cool.
that's awesome. Kiwi-Nadian, nice. Is your music having a few undertone of New Zealand culture as well? I'd like to see like some
Flight of the Conchords.
Flight of the Conchords. That's funny. Sander De Vries says, I wish we could go travel to New Zealand soon, but I don't think we'll be able to do it this year. What do you think? Okay, so obviously every week we talk about when will the border reopen. So a few things have happened in New Zealand this week. And so I'll give you a little bit of perspective about where we are. So first up, you need to remember that in New Zealand, we're having some national elections. So we're going to elect a new, or keep the old prime minister. She's not that old, but keep her because she was already there. Or keep our current prime minister. Here you go, current. Or keep our current prime minister for another term. And that's happening in September. So obviously, all the politicians right now are extremely focused on getting re-elected more than getting anything else done, which is normal. That's what politicians do. But also the result of this election will probably also have an impact on New Zealand's policy regarding the coronavirus crisis, because, well, the opposition is trying to say that what the current person is doing is not great, and vice versa. That's how it works. So that's the first thing to keep in mind. So there is this big uncertainty right here that probably will be resolved between September, October, where the policy may or may not change drastically. Another thing that has happened is that in Australia, there has been a few more outbreaks, and basically there's a resurgence of the virus over there. And because of that, the opening of the border with Australia, so New Zealand was working on the travel bubble between New Zealand and Australia as a test to see if they could maintain that. As a result, New Zealand has kind of like put a bit of like a hola, we'll wait a little bit. So there is a little bit of a delay on that. So we don't even have our test opening with Australia. So for reopening for the rest of the world, if we don't have our test just yet, I feel like it will delay everything again. And lastly, there was a bit of talk with the Cook Islands. So the Cook Islands, they are a South Pacific nation, which is absolutely fantastic, and which has extremely close ties with New Zealand. So, it's almost kind of an independent part of New Zealand.
Yeah, it's within the same realm of New Zealand.
So it's a realm. I just don't really know what the word realm kind of entails, but it's basically kind of an overseas territories of New Zealand, almost, right? But the border has been shut with them as well, so there has been no travel there. Now, the Cook Islands, they rely 90% of their economy on tourism, and most of the tourism comes from New Zealand. So they're obviously in a very precarious position over there. And right now, it's usually the highest peak time for holidays in the year. So there is a lot of things happening right here. And when the current Prime Minister of the Cook Islands this week said, next week we'll be talking about reopening the borders with the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister of New Zealand said, nope, we're not doing anything until we tried with Australia. So she put some cold water right onto that. So that really shows that they are not going to take any risk. They are going to be doing Australia first, and then they're going to be looking at something else. So far, that's basically what we can interpret from that. There has been no official announcement, but that's where we're at. So as far as other countries and who is going to be opening and when, so far, we are going to be sticking to the video production that we've done. And that's the last kind of coronavirus-related videos that we've done. You can find that on the channel. We're going to be sticking to that, if not pushing some of them a little bit more further away as well. So to answer, in short, your question, Sander De Vries, I can't remember where you're from, but I think that was like Belgium or something.
The Netherlands.
Netherlands, yes, that was Netherlands. You told us that last time. I don't think that you will be able to travel to New Zealand this year. But again, it's just my opinion. There has been nothing announced. If in September we get somebody else in power and they decide to do something completely different. Open all the borders. Yeah, exactly. We don't know, right? But so far, to answer your question and to give you some context on why I'm answering it like that, I don't think you'll be able to travel to New Zealand this year. And we have a full video in which we predict when will the border open for all the countries, or some of the countries at least. Yeah,
and we do have an updated article on NZPocketGuide.com about what the current state of basically the borders are, like who can actually come to New Zealand, which is basically no one. But so there's a very small amount of people that can come to New Zealand. So we've updated all that article on NZPocketGuide.com. So make sure to go check that out as well if you have any more questions.
what she said. All right, Sherry Ruthworth say good morning from Sydney, Australia. How are you doing, Sherry?
Morning.
Thank you for joining us another week. I remember you from last week. Don't worry. K Giles,
I think.
K Giles says, where do you live in Aotearoa? We are living in central North Island. It's very handy in the middle of everywhere. We get to drive and get everywhere in only a few hours. The good thing with New Zealand is that everything is kind of really close. To give you an idea, if you were to drive from Auckland down to Wellington, you can do that in about 8 hours. And there is no place in New Zealand that is further away than 2.5 hour drive from the sea. So just to give you kind of an understanding of like how close is everything. So we decided to base ourselves in central North Island, so we get to travel everywhere quite easily in order to keep NZPocketGuide.com, which is the largest travel guide to New Zealand, always up to date for you guys. Speaking of that, we've done a lot of updates on the website. So when you guys are reading articles on NZPocketGuide.com, at the bottom, there is something that says, was this article useful? And you can click, yes, it was super useful, or no, it needs improvement. And you can tell us if there is something missing, or if you wish there was an extra bit of information, please use that. It's really helpful for us to be able to do all the updates and everything. And that we get the whole website exactly what you need it to be.
Yes.
Mita Hull says the letter P about 20 times, so that's great. I do like the letter P as well. Celine Ying Yang says it's 3 a.m. in my country. Oh my God, go to bed.
Oh, that's early. Which country are you in?
Yeah, and what are you doing awake at 3 a.m.? Max Devonhill says, have you been to Whitianga? Yes, we've been to Whitianga. We got robbed of our fish and chips by seagulls. We did some awesome scuba diving in Mercury Island.
Yep.
What else have we done? We went to Hahei.
Yeah, we
Cathedral Cove.
Walked along Whitianga Beach.
Yeah,
we had a quick look around the town. But yeah, Whitianga is kind of like the main sort of town. I think it's actually the largest town in the Coromandel area.
Thames will be bigger.
I'm not sure.
Okay,
well at least on that coast.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest places.
Yeah, but it's near attractions. It's kind of near attractions like Cathedral Cove and Hot Water Beach and stuff. If anyone's trying to pinpoint where Whitianga is on the map, it's in the Coromandel area. Yeah. And
if you do want to watch some video of us in Whitianga, Max, you can type Whitianga in the search box of the channel, or on YouTube, you type Whitianga and then NZ Pocket Guide, and you'll find all our videos. You see us scuba diving and doing all that. They're very early videos, so we look younger, and the videos are terrible. But you see what Whitianga look like, so here you go. But why are you asking, Max? Why are you planning a trip to Whitianga, or what's the story?
Do you live in Whitianga?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. By the way, guys, there's 17 of you guys watching the video, which is awesome. We have 6 likes on the video. Can we make it 17? Are all 17 of you guys finding this video useful? Like, if you do, just click that like button. If you don't, click the down like, by the way. But if you do, like, free choice. Let's see if we actually are useful or not to you guys. Matthew Smith say there is also a cannabis legalization referendum in September for New Zealand. That's true. So we are voting on 3 things. So we're getting a new prime minister. We are going to vote if we want or not to legalize cannabis, which is long overdue. I'm never going to say my opinion. And then we're also going to be voting on the end of life. So that's kind of euthanasia. When you are suffering a lot and everything, do you have the right to have access to medication to end your life and your suffering? So that's the 3 things that we're going to be voting on in September in New Zealand. They do all the election at the same time. Like, it's just you go to the ballot once and you do everything. And so that you don't have to go back and forth 20 times, which I find efficient. So I like it. Farhan Khan says, hello, Farhan. How are you doing? Sherry says she's doing okay, but she's sad about all the new cases here. Oh, no. Yeah. So Sherry's in Australia, if you guys don't know. So, yeah. She's saying, I only came halfway through explaining Matariki, but it sounds amazing. I'd love to be able to see the event. I'm tempted to visit around that time. I'll be able to stand the cold. You will. Just put an extra jacket.
As long as you've got a jacket and, you're prepared for the cold, then it won't bother you.
And when the live session is finished, Sherry, you can always rewind and watch the beginning of Laura's explanation on Matariki. Kiwi Lauren says, I actually arranged the national anthem of Canada and New Zealand together. The Wellington Youth Choir was sweet enough to sing, to sight read it for me. You can search O Canada /God Defend New Zealand to hear it. Okay, we'll do that.
Nice.
That sounds fun. I think I spent a gap year in Canada as well. So yeah, so I think I remember the anthem for all the Canucks game I was going to. All right, GSM KTU says how to meet a Maori. It's really not hard, honestly. You travel in New Zealand, and it's the very present culture. So there are Maori people everywhere, and they are part of the culture as well everywhere. You can see some beautiful carvings everywhere, and Maori, I feel like the base of the Maori culture is welcoming. Right, so they have something called marais, which is like some really big house, and it's kind of a meeting house. So when you go to marais, people kind of welcome you, and obviously you have to be respectful and everything, but and respect all the culture, like take off your shoes, all those
the
things.
Customs,
obviously, respect all the customs, but they really welcome you into their world. There is also a ton of tourism businesses and tourism operators which are owned and operated by Maori people. And so throughout their tours, it can be just a kayaking tour or just a walking tour and everything. They will share also a ton about their culture as well, which is really cool. And there is also a few events in which the Maori culture is put into kind of a pedestal, and that's the core part of the event. There is, for example, Waitangi Day, which is a celebration of the Waitangi Treaty, and it's basically in short, it's a celebration where the English apologize to a Maori for not
taking over their land,
for taking advantage of them during the treaty. That's what the celebration is like. In very short. We obviously have another video to explain everything about it, but in very short, that's what it is. And so there are some really amazing places like Oaklands Bay, for example, which is down in the South Island, in the near Akaroa, and which has like really big celebration there with big ceremony and everything. And so it's pretty easy. You can also go visit some Maori village in the town of Rotorua. So there is countless ways to meet Maoris when traveling in New Zealand.
You'll find that it's very accessible, even just by traveling the country, just by stopping by in small towns or doing various tours around New Zealand. And different activities. There's a very small chance that you'll miss interacting with Maori people. So they're not hidden anywhere. They're just part of New Zealand. So
So if any of you guys are watching, like Kiwi Lauren, and which I have been to New Zealand already, just tell us if you actually did during your travel in New Zealand meet some Maori people. It would be interesting to know. But we feel that it's really not something hard to do. So you should be all good, GSM KTU. So tell us in the comments, and I'll read that to him or her. Farhan says, New Zealand is my favorite country. It's ours too. Good job. Good choice. Great taste. Sander the Rice says, thanks for the comprehensive answer. You're very welcome, mate. You know that's what we do here. We always just go way too in-depth in every subject. He says, the positive side of the border being closed is that I can save up some extra money to spend in New Zealand. Here you go. You'll have an even better trip to New Zealand. And you also have extra time to plan your trip. So you can head up to nzpocketguide.com and just plan your trip for longer. Choose more things to do and make your itinerary even more precisely. Which is awesome. GSM KTU says, since I am to college, I wish to visit New Zealand. One of my dreams. Awesome. Well, it's not too hard to visit New Zealand. You just hop on the plane when the borders opens. Yu Yun Lim says, I miss New Zealand. Oh, we miss you too. Sherry Wisworth say, what is your absolute favorite Maori cultural evening in Europe? There are so many, and I can't choose. Tamaki and Mitai are both really good because what I really like is like the walk through the little village. I think that's my favorite. I mean, the food's delicious. The shows are fantastic. All of that is good. But if I have to pick one thing, I think I personally prefer like the walk through the village. So I think the two that stand out of that would be Mitai and Tamaki for my personal choice. I think I will pick Tamaki. But honestly, on any given day, I could pick another one. What about you?
I was going to say, I think I was leaning a little bit more toward Tamaki as well, but all of them are fantastic and you'll have an amazing time at them. So it is pretty hard to choose as well. In terms of the ones that actually do sort of an event on the evening. That's Tamaki. I think Te Puia does do one on an evening, and Mitai. So that's sort of the three main ones to go on an evening. The other cultural tours, I think, happen during the day. So, but we do have an article on nzpocketguide.com, which are the sort of, I think it's the 10 best Maori tours in New Zealand, and you'll be able to sort of read what each one entails, compare them a little bit, and see what sort of thing appeals the most to you.
And I think we have a video of the Tamaki Maori village tour in the channel. So if you want to check out what actually everything is included and how like the whole tour, us basically showing you way too much about it. Just type Tamaki on our channel, or just type Tamaki and then NZ Pocket Guide. We look young, and we look a couple of years younger, and way too loud we were. Way too loud.
Too enthusiastic.
Yeah. Okay, Emilio Carlin has a good question for you, Laura.
Oh, yeah?
Can you save money picking fruit in New Zealand?
You certainly can, yes. The good thing about picking fruit in New Zealand is a lot of the ways that they pay you is they pay you per bin that you fill. And that's sort of you working as a team. You're usually sort of doing the work as a team, and you have to basically, the more you pick, the more money you get, which is really, it's a good motivation for the whole team to, work together, do really well, and sort of make more money than they would get at minimum wage, for instance. And usually for fruit picking, there's sort of accommodations are nearby the place. There's usually transport organized to get to work. Usually people come together to like take one car or one van to go to work. So there's definitely, because fruit picking's usually sort of, people that do fruit picking are usually really interested in being able to save money and make a lot of money so that they can go on with their travels. Everyone that you're working with is in the same boat. They want to save as much money as possible as well. So you're all sort of helping each other save money as well, which is quite cool. And there's usually very affordable accommodation near these sort of jobs as well. So you can certainly save money doing fruit picking. And the really good thing about it is that it's kind of like usually lasts for maybe 2 or 3 months. And it's intense work. It's quite hard work, but you're just doing it for a short time, and you will feel quite rewarded at the end, I think.
And there's also not just fruit picking in this kind of industry as well. There's tray making, there is grading. I was looking for the words, like what is the word? Yeah. Grading. So that's when you kind of decide like what kind of fruit quality that is, for different sectors and everything. So, the bigger one go here, the smaller one go there. There is also packing, literally just packing all the fruits and making sure they're all like nice. And so there is all that type of job as well. And they all are paying quite well if you're productive enough. And I think that, when you're young and fit, it's a great way to save money, when traveling in New Zealand, for sure. Yeah. So can you save money? Yeah. If you don't spend everything on booze to party. Honestly, right? Because you're going to be staying, in a hostel or in places with a lot of other young people. So if you don't spend everything on booze, partying and everything, which, I've done, and then you don't save anything. But then when you kind of realize that, you're like, okay, if I try to save, you definitely can. Yeah. But yeah, if you eat out every day and then spend everything on booze, you will save nothing. But that will be the same thing for any type of job. Yeah, I was just going to say, we also have a video on YouTube about us actually visiting a kiwi fruit packing house. That's true. So if you go and have a look at that, and we actually do some calculations of how much these girls were making, just making sort of putting the cardboard boxes together. The more cardboard boxes they were putting together, the more money they were making, and they were making quite a lot of money out of that. Because they were getting really fast. Like the first few days when you do it, you're not making that much money, but then you get the rhythm, and they were fast. I think they were making about $35 an hour or something like that. That was really, really a lot of money they were making. But we do all the math in the video, so you just type like kiwi fruit and then NZ Pocket Guide. Pack house. Just type kiwi fruit and then Pocket Guide, you'll find it. Yeah. And or kiwi and then Pocket Guide, you'll find it quite easily. We do all the math for you. Yeah. And also bear in mind that the minimum wage in New Zealand is going up every single year. It's almost $20 I think by the time you come to visit New Zealand, it's probably going to be $20
exactly.
an hour.
So bear in mind that that figure of the minimum wage is going up every year. So that means that people in those sort of industries are making more and more money as the years goes on. But that's also because the cost of life in New Zealand is also going steadily up as well. It balances itself.
But that's a good question, Emilio. I like it. Thank you very much for asking. David Burrows says, I'm a little bit sad right now because I was supposed to leave today for a 3-week trip to New Zealand in late 2019. Hopefully, I'll be able to do an even better trip a year from now.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
yes.
Sorry about that, David. It's sometimes just like so the events just get into.
Yeah.
To be fair, we were supposed to be discovering a brand new country right now as well, and we are stuck in New Zealand. It's not bad to be stuck in New Zealand. Let's be honest.
No, we're definitely not complaining.
We're not complaining, but I think like everybody had planned, and it's just everything just got thrown into the rubbish. And be like, okay, everything later. So yeah, but hopefully everything stabilized very well, and in a year from now, it's just going to be 2020 will be just a bad nightmare that we used to have,
Yeah.
It was just not a good year between the Australian bushfire and all that. But
yeah.
All right. Matthew Smith says there are 750,000 Maoris in New Zealand and only 5 million people in the country. So yeah, if the figures are correct, that's just under 1 person out of 5. So yeah, if you meet 5 people in New Zealand, you will meet a Maori. So the odds are in your favor. Extreme Tarota says, anyway, guys, I'm going to make breakfast. See you next week. See you next week. Thank you very much for popping in, mate.
Yep, see you.
Deep says, what is the immigration policy for permanent residents in New Zealand? Well, right now, everything is frozen, right? Because Immigration New Zealand is just dealing with the whole nonsense that is happening right now. So right now, everything is frozen. But usually, you can get permanent residents in New Zealand through different channels. That would be the business, investment, skills, family, and all these kind of things in between. So you have to deal with Immigration New Zealand directly to know which one is your path, because no 2 people will have the same path to residency in New Zealand.
Yeah.
And for that reason, we can't really give you an advice. Also, there is a law in New Zealand that states that if you're not a registered immigration advisor in New Zealand, you cannot give immigration advice. For this reason, we cannot give you immigration advice. We can just give some really generic statements, but that's pretty much it. We do not legally have the right to answer this question. And since I don't feel to get into legal trouble for a question like this, I can't say anything. Sorry. Kiwi Lawrence says, I'd love to come back to visit my friends in New Zealand and do more things that terrify and exhilarate me. Would love to meet you when I'm back, maybe in New Zealand winter 2022. Oh, that's safe to plan far ahead. That's pretty awesome. That's pretty cool. Good. Yeah. Speaking of things that terrifies you, I think you should check out our video of the Queenstown bungee. It's a pretty funny video in which I make a terrible fool of myself.
Which we also do. Actually, it looks like it's winter because it was on a snowy day, but that was actually in spring.
That was spring, yeah.
Yeah.
And also Kiwi Loren respond to you, GSM KTU, and she says, yes, I met a ton of Maoris people in New Zealand. So here you go. It's not going to be hard.
Yeah.
You got 2 people already that tell you you're going to meet some. Luap Plays says, will it be possible to visit New Zealand in February next year? I think it will depend which country you are from. It will really depend also about what policy your country has put in place to prevent the spread of this nonsense. I'm going to call it a nonsense.
The
now.
nonsense.
The nonsense 2019. So it will depend on that, because what we see that New Zealand is really going to open like countries kind of one by one, or tiny regions one by one, in order to kind of contain kind of the spread of the disease around New Zealand. So it will depend where you are from. If you want to know more about what we think will happen and everything like that, you can check out our video about the prediction for the border opening. So if you put NZ border opening predictions on YouTube, I'm pretty sure you're going to find our video quite easily. Otherwise, just go on this channel, and you check all our video, and the latest video, which is red and yellow, the thumbnail, that's the one I'm talking about. And in this video, we actually give a prediction for every kind of regions around the world and when we think the border will open. Obviously, they are just predictions, so they're not and we explain what we base them on, but they're just prediction. They're not official information, so don't plan your trip that way. But yeah, so in February next year, we only see a handful of countries being open, so you really will have to be from the right country. Emilio Carlin says, thank you so much, guys. You're very
You're
welcome,
welcome.
mate. So are you currently in New Zealand, or are you planning your trip to New Zealand and you're planning to do some fruit picking along the way? What's your current situation, Emilio? Kiwi Lauren says, I have to duck out here, but I'm glad I caught a live video finally and had a chance to chat. I've watched a ton of your videos and feel like I know you. Haha. Keep up the great work. You're very welcome,
you.
Kiwi Lauren. Yeah, that happens sometimes. There are some YouTubers, I just keep on watching some videos of them, and you know, sometimes you kind of say like, oh, I'm going to watch a video from Simon or something.
Yeah, you kind of get on a
funny,
first name basis with the people you're watching, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to go check out what Simon's doing, and
and that's why it's important to comment on the video and just say something, because otherwise, you know, we on the other hand, we don't have that relationship with you as well. So, you know, if you kind of comment on most of the video that you watch, or, you know, kind of interact with us, then there is a little bit more, you know, like we get to know you as well. You know, there are some people that we get to know. You know, there's a guy called Victor that comes for life advice regularly.
Yes.
So Victor from the Netherlands that comes regularly. Sherry's from Australia. She came last week and she's come again today. We have Kshitij, which was trying to plan his honeymoon with his girlfriend, which is from India, I think.
Yeah. We talked to Extreme Talota, who tells us about how to make special Maori bread, which we still haven't tried.
Sander, he's coming regularly. He or she's coming regularly, and I think from the Netherlands as well. So there's
a few people we're getting to know through the live chat, which is quite cool.
There's Michael Mariano that was from Hawaii. That used to put a ton of emojis and everything. He was joining us like almost every week. Before his trip to come to New Zealand, he was joining us every week.
We used to have Margarita Mama from Hawaii as well. Yeah,
and there is it Christine right now from Hawaii? There's a lot of people from Hawaii in the channel, which is always cool. Anyway, I like to reminisce about all of that. All right, another thing that I was saying, I don't know if I was saying it before the video kind of messed up or not. By the way, we have about 15 minutes left with you guys. So if you want to ask your question, quick fire questions, come on, put them on right now, because otherwise
you'll miss out.
Otherwise you miss out and you have to come back next week. But another thing that I was saying is that I did leave a little bit of a survey on the community tab of the channel this week, and there's 30 of you guys that voted, and that's really awesome. So what I was asking is, when we do videos to answer your questions, we do a lot of really short videos to answer your questions. I usually just put the two of us talking to you guys, but I started putting some photos on top of that, just to give you a bit more of
the visuals.
Visuals, yeah. So if we talk about Hobbiton, for example, I put like some videos, some photos of Hobbiton and everything like that, just to kind of like, okay, well, this is what Hobbitons look like. Not like you need to know what Hobbitons look like.
It's probably the one picture you do know what something looks like in New Zealand.
But yeah, so I started putting some pictures of places and everything, and I was asking if it was more distracting to the information that we were giving you, or if it was just adding a little bit of flavor to it, and if you did like it and you still got that. So I was asking you guys to vote on that, and 30 of you guys voted, and 85% of you guys actually voted that you wanted us to keep on going with the photos. So that's pretty awesome, and I really appreciate the fact you guys took the time to vote for that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so on the next few videos coming up, you're going to see much more photos coming up. And that's because you guys voted for it. So if you decide to change your mind and you think that you're hating all those photos, just tell us in the comment of the video and tell us
stop with the photos.
We don't like it. So it's important. Like, so whatever you guys tell us, we actually are taking it in consideration, right? It's important to us.
Yeah.
Anyway, Sherry says she doesn't think it's distracting and it's helpful. So here you go. Well, were you one of the one that voted? If you did vote, you got what you wanted. Otherwise, well, you got what you wanted either.
But thanks for the feedback. Yeah, that's really cool.
And Anthony says, I enjoy your video and I'm finding out a lot. Cool. Yeah, so Anthony, you are still... Yeah, Anthony also is here from California, USA. He's here every time.
Here Was he the one that was asking us about the video to do when we walk around?
Oh,
doing a hike?
Yeah. So yes, did you find some videos of hiking and everything like that, or not yet? So here's where we were at, right? We actually are gonna try to do one of those videos for you, Anthony. But the problem is uploading a video which is about 10 to 15 minutes. Uploading a video which is about 10 to 15 minutes on YouTube right now, it takes us about 3 to 4 hours, right? So we need to find like a walk which is an hour or less, because if we do anything longer than that, it will take way more than like a whole night. And when you upload the video on the new YouTube, which is quite frankly terrible, on the new YouTube backends, when you upload a video, you can't just upload something and then restart the upload later. You know, you used to be able to do that on the old one. Now you can't. So it is going to be a challenge for us to be able to upload that, because when we upload a video, it slows down the internet to a crawl and we can do nothing else. So we will try to do it for you. We just need to work it out correctly and figure out something.
Yeah, so we live in quite a small town in New Zealand where the internet is not that great. Like, you see that we have problems on YouTube all the time. We're on this live stream where we're like, the stream disconnects. We have to do another stream, that sort of thing. So we have a lot of issues trying to upload videos like at a fast, in a fast pace. So yeah, we really want to do this for you, Anthony. We actually were like finding a walk we wanted to do. We sort of picked a walk we think would work, but we just need to find basically a time to upload an hour-long video. It's going to be pretty tricky.
So yeah, that's basically where we are right now, but we will try to do that for you. We were at the beginning, we were thinking like, let's do a great walk, like one of those, but like 3-day walk. I just think it's crazy.
We'll never get to use the internet again if we try to upload that. But he looks like he found some for Auckland and Wellington, which is pretty cool. Yeah.
So how long are those videos usually? And are they fast forward or are they just normal pace? Like what's usually there's some birds flying around, so I got distracted. Distracted by all the New Zealand wildlife. So are they usually a fast forward those videos, or just give us a bit of context right here? But yeah, that's cool. Okay, so let's recap today. So we had Matariki, which is the New Zealand Maori New Year. We talked about it. That was awesome. We also did talk about can you make some money while doing food picking in New Zealand, which you definitely can. And also we did answer some of the questions about the border opening. So we did cover a lot today, but we still have a few minutes to answer more questions if you guys have any more. Sherry says, are there many working opportunities for people over 30? I've been looking in all different countries and the working visas are usually 18 to 30. That's true. Like most of the working. So if you're from the UK, if you have a UK passport, you can come to New Zealand and you can be up to 35 years old with a working holiday visa.
No, in the UK it's 30. In Canada it's up to 35. Yeah.
So there are some few countries like that. But otherwise, Sherry, you will have to actually get a proper work visa. So you have to go through the whole immigration channel and all that in order to get that. But opportunity for working when you're above 30, it gets much harder. So you really want to be doing your work and travel experiences as early as you can. Yeah. Because otherwise, almost all the doors are kind of closing after that, sadly. So yeah. But you can do some on the visitor visa in New Zealand. You can do some volunteering if you're interested in doing some volunteering and you want to work, for example, with Department of Conservation. If you want to do some wildlife conservation, those kind of things, you can do volunteering as long as you don't get anything in exchange. So as long as you don't get like free accommodation or free food or those kind of things, you still can't do that. Yeah. But if you just do straight volunteering, you can do volunteering in New Zealand. That's for sure. Anthony said that the video was 15 minutes to an hour. And Sherry says, damn, haha, I'm already over 30. I would like to work and save money as well. I think if you're Australian, are you Australian, Sherry? If you are actually Australian, not just visiting Australia, if you're actually Australian, there is a lot of agreements between New Zealand and Australia. Yeah. So you have like much more lenience and it's much easier for you to come and work in New Zealand and vice versa for Kiwis to go work in Australia. So it's much easier. But obviously we're not immigration advisor. Yeah,
it's best to go onto the immigration website and obviously you've been looking at the working holiday visas, but have a look at some of the other visas and what you can do with your nationality. It really depends on where you're from as well. So yeah, just definitely have a browse around the website and see what's the best sort of way for you to get there. But you're Australian.
If you say you're Australian, just go on the Immigration New Zealand website. You see, like I think there's agreement. Like don't quote me on that, but I think there is even some ways where you don't even need a visa to work. You just have to be Australian. And you can work in New Zealand, I think. Yeah. So just have a look at it. We have some Australian friends here, which they're still Australian and they work here and they've been here for super long. And I have some Kiwi friends, which actually are.
They just go to Australia and work in Australia. So I think that, like Robin says,
they can't go back now. Actually, they just came back. We met them. Like they usually go to Australia to work, and they just came back here for a week for his dad's birthday, and that's when the crisis hit. And he can't go back to his work, which is quite funny. So I think between Australia and New Zealand, it's a very specific case, and so you have a lot of lenience. Anyhow, thank you very much, guys, for watching. We'll be back here next week at those times. Laura, go ahead.
All right, so you can join us again next week at 8 a.m. New Zealand time on a Sunday, but around the world in Europe, that is on a Saturday evening around 9-10 p.m. On a Saturday afternoon, if you're in the US, that is 4 p.m. EST, 1 p.m. PST. It's also bright and early on a Sunday morning in India at 1:30 a.m. And in Australia, that's also pretty early on a Sunday morning at 6 a.m.
And if you did not catch this live session and had a question for us, put it in the comments of this video, of any of our video actually, and we'll be able to pick it up and answer it for you during this live session. Have a lovely week. Have a safe week. And yeah, bye-bye, Sherry. Bye-bye, Anthony. And bye-bye, everybody else.
All right, see you next week and stay safe.